Hello and welcome to Study with Sudhir. My name is Sudhir and we are doing an SWS classroom chat. And today we are doing it in the Central Park at Navi Mumbai.
So a classroom chat with a difference, out in the open, in the greenery, and we are going to be discussing the History and Civics paper, which is on the 10th of March for ICSE Class 10 students.
So we have an 80 on 80 paper. It is of 80 marks, and this is something students can really score in and actually improve their best of 5 or overall percentage.
Absolutely. In fact, we call it the century course because there are so many students who manage to score an 80 on 80, as Teju said, and that is very much possible for the batch of 2025 also, provided you take care of a few things which we are going to touch upon in this strategy video.
So first of all, the most common doubts among students is, should they be memorizing the dates?
Yes. See, in the past, we haven't seen questions coming directly about the dates. However, I believe that now with the MCQs, the competency-focused MCQs, the recall-based questions, there could be some questions. But even if there are not any questions that directly test you, when did this happen? I always believe that when you add a date, include a date detail in your subjective 3-mark or 4-mark question answers, it tells the examiner that this particular student is more thorough with the information, and that adds value to the answer. So a few important dates. There is something called free material on the Study with Sudhir app. You could go and have a look at that particular PDF. Alternately, there is also a video that I had done last year in which I had discussed all the important dates. Please take a look at that short video. You will get all the important dates that you need to know.
Yes. And what about picture-based questions? How do we deal with such questions?
Now, picture-based questions, Teju, has changed a lot from the time you took the exam in 2019. At that time, all the picture-based questions that used to come would be always from your textbook.
Yes.
So it was in that sense easy to relate to. It was
visual memory.
Yeah, visual memory. You knew, okay, this is the photograph taken from the textbook, so you could relate to it. Now what's happening is that there are a whole lot of newspaper headlines, caricatures, cartoons, different photographs from the ones which have been used in your textbook, which are coming. Now, for that, it's important that you know the specific facial features of all the prominent leaders who are there as part of your history syllabus. The Indian movement, national movement, the Gandhian period, and the world history. So if they know that, I don't think you would have an issue in identifying a Lord Mountbatten, Hitler, Mussolini, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru. I don't think that would really be an issue. So, but yes, be prepared for the newspaper headlines. Try to understand what is the newspaper headline trying to convey, or what is it that the cartoon is trying to say or convey. That would really help you as far as the picture-based questions are concerned.
Okay. Appa, let's now come to the MCQs part. So you have 16 MCQs, out of which 10 are from the history syllabus and 6 are from civics. How does one prepare for that?
Thoroughness. I think you need to be really thorough. Apart from the apart from the simple, easy recall questions, you would be getting a lot of example-based questions. You would be getting a lot of data-based questions. Not lot, at least some data-based questions, especially when it comes to civics. So you need to, it will test your application of mind, your understanding of the subject. So in that sense, the civics MCQs in particular, to my mind, can be a bit more challenging than what was the case in the previous years. So I don't think just doing PYQs is going to suffice. What it would really help is to test yourself on quality MCQs, because especially when it comes to civics, be it the judiciary or parliament or the executive questions, you will need to understand what it is. What I'm going to do is to have a series of bullet short revision series for all the 3 periods of history and civics, so that will help you understand all the things. Along with the revision, I've also explained a lot of the concepts in like a quick gun Murugan. You will get to know all the facts, and that will really help you with MCQs as well.
Should people be knowing some sort of current affairs, or that's not required?
Not really required, but yes, you know, you would have questions like some newspaper headline from a recent event, let's say the last 6 months to a year, and they would try to link it to some aspect which would be part of your civics syllabus. So the challenge would be for you to be able to make that linkage. If you are able to make that linkage, I think you are doing well.
Okay. Now coming to the question 2 of part 1, after the MCQs, you have 2 more questions. And according to the specimen paper, You are having 2 of them from civics,
Civics.
and the rest are from history.
Yeah.
So how does one prepare for those questions?
I think I wouldn't really fret too much over the 2 mark questions, because most of them I've seen are pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
However, there would always be a newspaper headline based story, like, this item came, this is what was done. Like, for example, let's say there were lots of complaints among the residents of a particular locality with the electricity board of a particular city. What should they have done in order to get it? So the answer obviously would be that a Lok Adalat would have helped them
Yes.
solve all those issues. So that's the kind of question and answer you could get. So if you are able to, as I said, make that linkage between what has been cited as an example, as a data point, and make that linkage to what you have studied as part of your syllabus, you will be doing pretty well.
Okay, Appa. Next,
There is a little child playing out here, right?
so in these 2 mark questions, again, I don't think you need to make it too lengthy. You can actually keep it short, so that you are actually answering to the point and not spending too much of time.
Yes, yes.
On
You need
those
to be
2
brief.
mark
You don't
questions.
really need to give too much of detail. Remember, it's just a 2 mark question, and that you should be doing fine. Hello.
Hello. Okay. So when you look at section B, right? So you have one part which is civics,
Yep.
which is for 20 marks.
Yes.
So you will get 3 questions, out of which you will need to attempt 2,
Yep.
and each question will have 3 subparts. So I think you should ensure that in the 15 minutes of reading time,
Yep.
you decide which are the 3 questions that need to be attempted, isn't it, Appa?
So in civics, you will have the 3 questions: one from parliament, one from the executive, and one from the judiciary. So in the 15 minutes, read all the subparts, which question are you most comfortable with, and decide which are the 2 subparts, 2 questions you're going to attempt. The same goes for history. Decide which are the
5 questions.
5
You have
questions.
to attempt any
You
3.
need to attempt any
And
3.
then world history, there'll be about 2 sets.
Yes.
And the rest will be from the
That
entire
kind of changes, but yeah, world history, one will be World War I, rise of dictatorships, and World War II. The second will be about the United Nations, NAM, Panchsheel, etc. That will be in second
But I
part.
would still suggest that people do not skip any chapter, saying that okay, I will only do the Indian history, because you never know if there's any complicated question in the Indian history part, and
I wouldn't advise that at all, because remember, there are 16 MCQs, which is 16 marks.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of marks, and that too in a subject where you have the chance to score an 80 on 80. Why would you want to settle for a 77 or a 78? So try and ensure that you study the entire syllabus. Don't leave out any chapter, so that you are equally capable of attempting all the subjective questions as well as the MCQs. MCQs, one thing that I missed out was, there could be, obviously there will be assertion and reasoning based questions. Don't get daunted or intimidated by the assertion and reasoning based questions, because they're basically simple questions. It's only the format of asking those questions which has changed. So if you are able to figure that out, you don't really need to worry too much about the assertion and reasoning based questions.
So what should their strategy be with, you have the gap between people who had second language as Hindi and your and your history civics paper? Of course, for people who had their second language as Tamil, Telugu,
they
and
have
all that, they have a longer
They
gap.
have
So what should the preparation strategy
No, first
be?
of all, I would obviously say that you need to devote some time to geography, because geography you have only a day's gap.
Absolutely.
So you need to ensure that, because it should not be the case that you did do very well in history civics and not so well in geography. You want to come here? You want to see yourself in the camera? So that's something which you need to be mindful of. As far as history civics is concerned, take each chapter as it comes. Ensure that you're very thorough, understand each and every aspect, have the ability to recall, have the ability to understand, have the ability to analyze, and have the ability to apply the understanding as well. If you're able to do that, I think you will not have any problems with both history and civics. Between history and civics, I would advise you to be a little more careful with civics, because it is in civics that you will get the more of the understanding and analytical kind of questions. And since most of you do not really have the habit of reading newspapers, you need to ensure that, at least with the concepts you are clear.
especially because I mean, essentially there are just 3 chapters in civics, so I don't think it won't be
3 units.
3 units.
Yeah.
So I don't think it will be too much of a difficulty in actually doing that really thoroughly.
Yeah.
Appa, coming to when they're writing the exam, what should be the time management strategy that they must follow?
Before we get to the time management strategy, I also want to tell you that there is a video in which I've made a list of all the governor generals and the viceroy, because what happens often is that students get confused between Lord Dalhousie and Lord Canning,
Yeah.
Lord Dalhousie and Lord Wellesley, Curzon and Irwin, so you need to be able to, if you can make a mind map, make, okay, Irwin, Gandhi, Irwin Pact, Curzon, partition of Bengal, Lord Lytton, the Grand Delhi Darbar. So if you are able to make all those linkages, it'll just make it easy for the students to remember.
In fact, I think a picture of one of the viceroys came in my paper in section B, as far as I remember.
I think you got the Jallianwala Bagh, if I'm remembering right, 2019,
or maybe in one of my pre-board,
so just ensure that you are able to make those linkages. So also remember, okay, what was each person known as, the titles that many of the leaders of the Indian national movement had, Dadabhai Naroji, the grand old man of India, you need to know all those titles. Again, this was done by me last year as a video, so please have a look at that video on YouTube. As you would recall in the in the revision series that I'm going to do, please ensure that the subheadings that you give, those contain your keywords.
Yes, absolutely.
You go through my revision videos, that will be the best possible revision before the examination, because I'm going to deal with all those keywords as part of the revision videos. Now, as far as the time management, 15 minutes, of course, you decide which are going to be the subsets that you're going to do. Give 30 minutes for part 1, which includes the MCQs and those 2-mark questions, so that 30 marks get taken care of in the first 30 minutes. Thereafter, each of the 5 questions, 2 questions of civics, 3 questions of history, you can give 15 minutes each, and you will be left with 15 minutes for revision. Or if you want to attempt an extra question, entirely up to you. We are not saying that you should attempt or you should not attempt. Entirely up to you. If you have the time and if you feel confident that you want to attempt an extra question, do that. Write extra question on top before you do that. So that will be all as far as history and civics.
And I also think they should write concise and not go on and on about it.
See, unlike literature, you don't need to write in paragraphs. You can write point form, which will also make it easier for the examiner to mark, because they'll say, okay, this student has used this keyword, has given the necessary details. Ensure that apart from the subheading, you give a couple of lines.
And if you can underline what are the keywords, the important parts of your answer, I think that will make it very easy for the examiner to actually reward you with the marks.
So as I said, very much possible to score an 80 on 80.
I scored 100 on 100.
Yes, do that, because the entire social science, geography plus history, civics can take your best of 5 score really high. It will really help you.
I think that's what took my score high. So I think this is something you must put your full efforts in and do really well in the history civics paper on the 10th of March. Do watch all the revision videos, bullet short revision as Appa calls it. And I think you'd be good to go for your history civics exam.
And there will also be an MCQ test coming up on the channel.
Okay, great.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you so much.